There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
All right, here we are. What are we? Episode 119.
119.
That's a heck of a number.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, cross wraps tonight.
Cross wraps. You know, I'm a fan, and I am not somebody that is a big decorative person, but I do love a good cross wrap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we've done this show in the past. It's always a big hit with the folks at home, and Hunter is excellent.
No, whoa. I think you're setting me up for disaster there.
Is that what it is? Are you worried?
I wouldn't use the word excellent.
Okay.
I would say
wonderful.
Good enough.
good enough. All right, so tonight we've got a guy that's good enough at doing cross wraps.
Say it like that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I probably used the wrong inflection on it. But anyway, we're gonna do cross wraps.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about variations and how to set it up, how to measure it. We do have the new butt wrap alignment tool.
We do.
For everybody that bought one, we hope you like it. I like it. It is certainly an upgrade.
Absolutely.
And the last one was kind of a hit.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one's got it going on.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So we're gonna go through. Cross wraps can be there can mean many things, right?
Yeah.
We call it cross wraps, decorative wraps,
Mm-hmm.
butt wraps is a common lingo used.
Yes.
So and there's different types of those wraps. There's chevrons. There's obviously open and closed wraps.
Oh yeah.
Big difference between those two. We're not gonna get into the closed wraps because that's the advanced portion. We're gonna save that for another show, or we're just gonna leave that for even the advanced rod builders like Mary Christie. Obviously, does a lot of really cool close wraps. One of our ambassadors here. We're gonna talk about some of the basics tonight. We're not gonna go all in depth on the advanced side. We're gonna leave that for some of the other pros out there.
And we just kind of also don't have the time to do it.
It does take a long time.
And really, there's kind of just there's a very small variation to make an open wrap, cross wrap, diamond wrap, whatever you want to call it, and then to have it close in.
Yes.
And really the only thing you have to worry about is the taper of the rod blank, because at some point, the crossing is going to be larger at one end and smaller at another. And what you don't want to do run out of gap, as you transition through that, which,
absolutely.
The stars of the cross wrap game can really do a great job of explaining it. And also, we don't want to keep you here till 10 o'clock at night. So we have somebody who's okay at doing cross wraps. Yeah. Well, I said you were great.
That's on me. That's on me.
But so we're gonna walk you through it, and the best part is, then you can run with it, because we're gonna give you what you need to know, and then from there, there's not a ton of do's and don'ts.
Not too many.
There's not too many don'ts.
No.
I guess. Just get your math down, and then you're okay.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, we're going to take a simple approach tonight. What I love about at least the method that I'm going to show, and I say that because there are many different ways that you can create and mock up a cross wrap and do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can literally knock out a cross wrap in 10 to 15 minutes. It's that easy. If not, 5 minutes if you really fly through it quickly.
Yeah.
So
and I like fishing.
Yes.
I like being on the water.
Fishing's fun.
Yeah. So I want to go ahead and get the cross wrap going and let's go fishing.
Yeah. So we're gonna go into that, but before we get into all that, let's go through. We got a little bit of housekeeping to go through. A little bit. Got some new products.
Perfect.
Obviously the butt wrap alignment tool. We'll get to that in a second. But first, I'm gonna show this really cool new color from Winthrop for their Adjusta butts. I'm just gonna kind of leave it right out here on the table. This is the gunmetal color.
Yeah.
So we carry this in a size 2, 2 short, and 4. And I believe we have all the sizes still on hand in stock, but this is a really, really cool color. It's got a little bit of a blue steel kind of colorway to it, but it is called gunmetal. So hopefully we can capture that on camera. Yeah, it looks pretty good there.
Huge,
so,
yeah, it does.
So, you know, we're going to be stocking these going forward. And like I said, I'm pretty sure we got all 3 sizes still in stock. These have been flying off the shelves since we've had them just in the past week or so. So if you're in the saltwater side of things and you're looking for something a little bit new and different, check out this new color from Winthrop, gunmetal adjust-a-butts. Pretty cool. So
That's awesome.
yep. All right,
love
let's
it.
move on. We're going to show the new and improved butt wrap alignment tool. Again, I'm just going to leave this out here and go through.
Now, is this one great or is this one okay?
Now, this one is excellent.
This one is
yes, yes. So, footprint basically looks a lot, very, very similar to our past version, right? You got the slat here, but let me walk you through some of the upgrades. So, for one, for this metal slat, which is going to push down and lock in your rod blank in that channel below it, we've pad printed this with both inches and centimeters, right? Yeah, centimeters.
I got you on that last time.
So inches and centimeters, it's pad printed. It's not a sticker or a vinyl that we had on the past version. This has the measurements right on there. And
Not going to rub off, scratch off, none of that.
And you can obviously interchange or flip-flop this slat depending on what side of the measurements you want on there, right?
Yeah, exactly. I
I've
mean,
got-
you know, we'll leave inches.
Yeah, I've got inches on here just because obviously
Yeah.
it's just going to be the most common measurements we use.
The best. Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
So also what's really cool is we have rubber feet, obviously on just the bottom portion in the 4 corners. We also have it, I'm going to flip it around this way, on this side too. And you guys will see why there's you know, these rubber pads on that side when we do our cross wrap, set up our cross wrap here in a few minutes. Now, one of the best new features is when you go to find your 0 and your, specifically your 180-degree axis with these cross wraps, it can be a little tricky sometimes. And what we did was actually add a little see-through window on the bottom side. So what that is basically the bottom of this channel has a little see-through portion. So now you're able to actually line up your 0 axis there. You can flip back to this side. Your 180-degree axis is going to be right on the top, which again, we'll show that in a few minutes to get a visual picture of that. But small upgrades that have really made this thing a lot more useful. So if you haven't picked this up yet, definitely take advantage while we got in stock right now and buy this thing. And you know, we'll obviously show some of the features here in a second for the use case.
Because we're going to use it.
We're going to use it, exactly. Now, we also have some giveaways, as always.
Do we? Are we doing that still?
Yeah, of course. That's why the people watch. That's why they're here. No, hopefully that's not the only reason.
Yeah. Well,
So-
tell us. Why don't you tell us about it?
First giveaway of the night is
you
going.
pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. First giveaway of the night is going to be this butt wrap alignment tool. We're gonna make it easy. If you guys are watching at home and want to, you know, try your own cross wraps, this is a great tool to give it a shot. Our second giveaway of the night. What do you got there, Chris? What does it say?
We've got the second giveaway. It's going to be a 12 spool ProWrap metallic thread assortment kit and thread tool combo pack.
Nice.
All of that. And then, of course, the grand prize, which is what you're really here for, is the Mudhole rod building kit of choice. And with that kit of choice, we have signature kits. Hunter's got a kit. I got a kit. The Scrog's got a kit. Big show. Terry. Matt Steffen's got a kit. And then, of course, we have just general rod building kits that are tailored to, you know, whatever you might need. So, do you remember, I want to say Scroggins finished. What is Scroggins?
Fourth?
Fourth?
I want to say fourth.
Speaking of Scroggins.
Yeah.
Big Show finished
Excellent
fourth,
tournament.
I think. In what? Do you remember what event
Harris.
that was? Okay,
Harris.
so Harris.
That was the second stop, I think, on the BPT trail.
Right. I think
MLF.
you're right. Yeah. So he was here in the backyard. Well, not really the backyard. More like the neighbor's backyard.
Yeah.
At Harris Chain, and yeah, it was cool. He got out the big stick.
Mm-hmm. Did a lot of flipping,
doing
pitching.
a lot of flipping.
Yeah.
And one of his rod kits for sure.
Yep.
So it's pretty cool.
Good stuff.
I can
Congrats,
dig it.
Terry. Great tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you're going to jump in. We need to talk about, and we're going to use the butt wrap alignment tool as the first demo because we're also going to give one away.
Yes.
So now I don't mean to jump ahead, but please also keep in mind that there's a couple ways that you can couple. There's a couple ways you can couple using like an RBS Pro and a butt wrap alignment tool and this, because remember, Justin, right in here, this chuck face is indexed, right? So if I were you, when you do your 0 and 180 degree marks on when you're doing all of your cross wrap stuff, what you need to do is you need to make sure that, you might as well line up the 0 and 180 on your chuck face. So, because we talk about this all the time, there's a lot of instances where the rod's never got to come out of this thing.
Correct.
Right? So, now granted, we are going to, I would say, we're going to imagine that we have no handles, no guides.
Correct.
And not that you can't do that, because you can certainly, that's one of the great things about the butt wrap alignment tool is you can take, if you've got a rod with a handle and everything glued up, or it's got guides on it, and you want to get brave and go, you know what, I think I just want to add in a cross wrap to a rod that's already built or whatever. Take it over to the butt wrap alignment tool, get all your lines, get everything done, then put it in your RBS Pro G2, and it's never got to come out.
Exactly.
And then you finish your wraps, finish your guide wraps.
Yep.
Because you want to make sure everything's in line, and then you go from there.
Yep.
Because that's something that, as cool as a decorative cross wrap can be, if it's not lined up like with a real seat and with guides and all that stuff,
Yes.
it can be just, and not that everybody will notice it, but you'll notice it and you'll just beat yourself up over it. I mean, I would almost just rather the rod like be off spine and be crooked and whatever, but don't have that real seat and that cross wrap misaligned.
Yeah, gotta line them up.
Ugh.
Yep. So let's start by going through at least some of the parts, pieces, tools that I'm gonna be working with tonight. First and foremost, we got our G2 wrapper. We got it on one section of track. Got a Pro stand here, and obviously we're going to be working on a white blank for visual reasons. Want to make sure you guys are able to see. Sometimes if we use a black or a gray blank, it just doesn't show up very well. So hopefully this white surface, this blank will be a little more visual tonight. So now, what I also have, of course, we got our butt wrap alignment tool. Got to have that. We'll get to that in very, very soon here. I also have, we got some thread, which I'll put out right here. So I've got CFSD ProWrap, so that's going to be color fast, small spool, size D, and the colors I have here are 325, 446, 807, and I also have a metallic. We probably will not use that, maybe towards the end of the show, but
Gotta have a little metallic, maybe.
in honor of President's Day being yesterday, why not go with the USA theme here?
For sure. I thought maybe we were selling the USA hockey team.
Well, that was electric. Yeah.
Maybe that's also why we're using inches on our CRB Pro alignment tool tonight, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, colors are obviously going to be your preference, whatever colors you want to make out of it. I do prefer to use size D if I am using single threads, we'll say. And I say that because you can also come in and I call it a cheat code, but it is what it is. You can use the ProWrap braid,
Yes.
which I've used ProWrap braid in the past on some of our cross wrap shows. It I believe is about a 1/16 of an inch or maybe an 1/8 of an inch wide. You know, comparatively, you're talking about probably about 10 to 12 individual threads if you were to compare this braid. I need to stop moving it all over the place. to just, you know, single thread. This braid is, again, I like to reference it as a cheat code because it's going to take up a lot more space in your cross wraps, and it's just going to make your life a whole lot easier. So again, we've used braid in the past shows. I'm going to do something a little different this time, and we're just going to stick to the single, not necessarily single threads, but just the you know, CFSD Color Fast ProWrap. And again, you can use metallics, you can use braids, you can use, you know, Color Fast, you can use nylon if you want to.
Yep.
If you are using nylon, obviously make sure that you come in with some ProSeal or any other color preserver of your choice. Nylon will change colors. It will darken significantly. So
I like Brian's already hitting us. Braid is cheating.
and that's okay.
And he says it with a smiley face.
Yes.
He's not, you know, he's not honest too bad. But yes, Brian, braid is cheating, and it is fantastic.
It is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, I'll let me, because you mentioned the ProSeal, and as you go ahead and start getting your thing ready.
Okay.
So, and I'm just going to talk here for a minute.
Go for it.
We talk about ProSeal or any thread sealant, color preserver, whatever you want to call it. You know I'm not a fan. I'm the first to admit it. Keep in mind, though, there are not only incredible selection of ProWrap threads, Fuji threads in Color Fast, but in nylon, there's also threads like these, which if you have been around a long time in terms of doing decorative thread work, this is Madeira, and this thread is a sewing thread. The reason it's a sewing thread, for those that don't know, and again, we try to take a step back, do a little 101 or 101 here, because yes, if you're an expert at this, you already know this, but again, bear with us. So, Madeira sewing thread. There is, I don't even know how many. Go to the Madeira website and look at the hundreds and hundreds, if not thousand, thread colors. This needs thread color preserver on it. The reason is it's sewing thread. It's supposed to go through a sewing machine, and it has a treatment on this thread to allow it to fly through the sewing machine and not bind up or whatever. So, in a sense, it's just like braid on your fishing rod, that there's a coating on the outside. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes that coating on this reacts, not even interacts, it reacts with rod finish. Some rod finishes more so than others. Some people might be in here and be like, oh, it never happens to me. All right, then go ahead. Spend 10 hours on a closed-in wrap and put a little finish on it and get it to fisheye and go, maybe I should have used color preserver. So
Absolutely.
If you want to go and get non-rod building thread and you're doing it in a decorative, you know, cross wrap or something like that, again, I clown on color preserver all the time. I know I do, but it's just, if you're going to do decorative and you're going to use the Madeira or get wild with it, or, you know, for example, we have a tiger thread, a TWT. It's cool, and it makes for neat patterns. It's a tiger thread, TWT. This is nylon, okay? But we have a PWMT, which looks sort of similar. This is a metallic twist. This does not need color preserver, but TWT tiger thread is a nylon. It needs it if you want it to look just like that when it gets on the rod. So just pay attention. The nylon rod building thread is not going to react negatively with finish, but it might darken, it might change the color, and you might, you know, be unhappy with the result. This Madeira thread, and again, I am not saying don't use this thread. I am just saying you might want to use color preserver. So anyway, that's my warning. I know it was long-winded, but I'm known for being long-winded, so it is what it is. But I think you are now ready.
I think so.
And he's excellent. So okay.
Thank you. So a few other things I'm going to go over before we get into it. You definitely need to have some sort of marking utensil. So what I have up here that I've found very useful is a Sharpie permanent marker, ultra fine point. Very, very important. Oh yeah, got the label perfect. Look at that. Ultra fine point. You can also use a China marker or, some of the other things. I love this because you can, make the tiniest little dot and you're not, having to make something that's a little excessive. So China marks can be tough sometimes because the edge of the China mark can, leave a big mark sometimes. And again, personal preference, but ultra fine point Sharpie is my go-to. Burnishing tool. Burnishing tool, or even like a thread pick. I might pick up one of those in a minute. That's just going to be to move the threads around, make sure we're hitting our marks, the intersection points. Just need to be able to kind of move and manipulate the thread when needed. Besides that,
I'm a metal pick kind of guy.
Now, obviously, we are going to start with the butt wrap alignment tool. You guys will notice we do have the overhead cam in action tonight. I have this butt wrap alignment tool sitting on top of this white box. This is just a prop. You do not have to have this box. We need to raise the butt wrap alignment tool off the table a little bit for the camera focus that's up there, little guy in the rafters that's holding our camera.
That's the CRB elevator box, and you'll be able to find it at mudhole.com next week.
Now, there is a little bit of a shadow. You guys can probably see the measurements here are a little bit in the dark, but I'll do my best to make sure that I'm either saying the measurements out loud or we can, we'll do our best to make sure that's visual. Now, I also have 1/2-inch masking tape. That's super, super important. I prefer 1/2-inch. You can go with 1/4-inch, but make sure you have a good roll of 1/2-inch masking tape. We're going to use quite a bit of it tonight. All right, let's get into it. So again, a few caveats here. This is the way that I have been taught and have learned how to do easy and simple cross wraps. There are many, many different ways to do this, down to finding your 0 and 180 and all that fun stuff. So there are plenty of other videos on YouTube, our Mudhole Custom Tackle YouTube, for example, that might do this process a little bit different, but what's great about custom rod building is you're going to get to the same result at the end, and there's many ways to get there. So I'm going to show you my way, but that doesn't mean that some of the other methods do not work. So that's one of my big caveats.
Is that the fine print at the bottom?
Yes.
So when people start going like,
scream that out loud. Because I know the comments are coming.
Yeah, exactly.
You used to do it this way. You used to do it that way.
I can hear those keyboard warriors cracking their knuckles. Just
and hey, they're
getting ready.
You absolutely can do it other ways, but
yeah.
I'm going to show you my way.
Oh, nice. We have picture-in-picture tonight. If you look up there in the top left corner. So I can't act a fool while I'm off camera.
I've got this scrap piece of blank just for easeability for use tonight. Obviously, if you were building a rod, more than likely by this time or this step in the process, you would probably have your handle section on and all that good stuff. We're just not going to worry about that tonight. We're going to go with a blank, a bare piece of blank, and keep it easy. So what I do first is I like to, obviously we need to determine what's the length of this cross wrap. Usually it's going to be maybe in the split grip area of your rod or maybe above the foregrip section. But we need to kind of determine what length it is, and for cross wraps to be visually apparent, you need to have at least a minimum of, I would say, 4 inches. I'm actually going to go with 6 just to actually get a few more diamonds out of this.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about some chevrons towards the end of the show, but for this demo, we're going to be talking about a diamond pattern.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. Whether it's in a split grip section of the butt section of a rod, whether it's casting, spinning, whatever, or if it's out in front of a foregrip or something, I think you're right. Somewhere between like 6 and 9 inches is probably a great place to start.
Yep. All right, so what we're gonna do is, and again, many ways to get to the same result. My preferred method is, I'm gonna take this slat, I'm gonna push it down on the rod blank. The great thing about this butt wrap alignment tool is, even if you push that slat down, and obviously make sure that your true bolts here are fairly tight, you can spin this rod blank while it's still in the tool. And that's very, very useful, and I'm gonna show you why here in a second. Now, if we are gonna be doing a 6-inch cross wrap, first thing I like to do is kind of quote unquote box in what the length of our cross wrap's gonna look like. I've got 2, pieces of tape here. Again, we're gonna be using a lot of tape, so make sure you got a good roll. I'm gonna be kind of boxing in my 6-inch length. So what I like to do is I'll take my piece of tape, and you'll notice on our slat here, are we able to zoom in any more there, Phil?
I think
just for a second.
Can you digitally zoom it? Hey, little man.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Golly.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. Stand by.
Say?
Okay, that's good. That's good.
I thought you just looked into Hunter's soul for a second. I was like,
Be careful.
holy
Be
cow.
careful.
I was like, he's got a heck of a cavity in that back
So
molar.
we'll zoom back out here in a second. If it's not too much trouble, Phil, sorry. But you guys will notice that our 0 mark is actually offset from the edge.
Yes.
That is on purpose. If you get your butt wrap alignment tool in, you're like, oh man, the 0 didn't start on the edge. That's for a reason. We try to make this as easy as possible, and we've kind of figured out that offsetting that by just a little bit gives you a much better accurate measurement across your cross wrap, and at the end of the day, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here and actually put this piece of tape right on. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. I'm gonna mark it. I'm gonna take my fine point Sharpie, and let me stop right here because I missed one step that's very crucial that you mentioned earlier. Make sure that wherever you're putting this first mark, this is gonna be our 0 axis. This needs to line up with your reel seat, your guides. You need to make sure the orientation of your 0 and 180 are accurate to whatever you want it to be lined up to.
Would you dare say the spine of the rod?
That could also be it. Absolutely,
or
Chris.
what about the straightest axis?
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother show that we had last year, and if you haven't watched that show, definitely go watch it after this one.
Either one.
But again, make sure I'm dealing with a bare piece of blank here, so obviously I don't have anything to line it up to, but imagine that we're lining up this 0 axis with our guides, or our reel seat per se. So anyway, I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna make my little mark here, it doesn't have to be very big, on, if I can actually get it to work, on 0. I'm also gonna be making a mark. Can we zoom back out there?
Oh, he slide over.
Oh, perfect. I'm also gonna be making a mark here on 6, because we are doing a 6-inch cross wrap. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop this blank real quick out of the tool. Easy there. And what I'm gonna do is, my right side of the tape, I'm gonna basically line up with that mark. I'm gonna try my best to make sure that that piece of tape, as I wrap it around the blank, is as straight as it can be, matching up with that mark. Just like that. Now, my right piece of tape, my other side, I'm gonna make sure the left edge is lined up with my mark. Again, this is what I refer to as boxing it in. We're just adding 2 pieces of tape as a reference point. So essentially, after I wrap this piece of tape around, what we are left with inside of, can we get a zoom out, Phil? There we go, that's better.
Stay with us, Phil.
Inside, from here to here, inside the tape marks, is where my cross wrap is going to be, the finished product of our cross wrap. Anything that's on the outside edges, even in this area right here, the middle piece of the tape, that will be covered up more than likely by separate thread wraps that we use to kind of close off both ends of this cross wrap. So again, from this edge right here of the tape to this edge right here of the tape, that's what we're going to have visually shown at the end of our cross wrap. Everything that's outside of that will be covered up. So just make sure you guys, that's a very important part of all this. So again, I'm going to go back to my butt wrap alignment tool here. And my next step is, we obviously have marks that indicate our 0 axis. I'm going to make those a little bit more apparent by coming in here. I'm going to push my slat down. I'm going to take my mark here. I'm actually going to line it up with my straight edge. So you'll see my mark is right here. And I'm just going to kind of come across and make a lateral line to give that 0 degree axis a little bit better reference mark so I know where it's at. Now, after we have that done, we need to come in and make sure that we mark our 180 degree axis. And this is where one of the new features of the butt wrap alignment tool really shines. And what I'm going to do here is, typically what you would do is flip this, you would orient it kind of on its back, right? Now you guys can't see, but on the inside here is where this window is for below the groove. Now again, typically you would be able to see this, but for camera purposes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it actually upside down. Right? So what's great about this window on the bottom is now you can take your 0 degree marks, line those up in the channel, right? So I don't know if, yeah, I can see them there.
Boy, come on, don't doubt my boy Phil.
So once you can kind of line up your marks as best as your ability to the inside of that kind of channeled window, we are going to carefully flip this back kind of on its right side up, and I'm going to make marks, lateral marks here on our pieces of tape. My Sharpie will work with me. That will indicate our 180 degree axis. Now, if I wasn't going through the process of explaining all this, that would have taken me probably about 30 seconds to do. But since I am explaining it, it took a few minutes there.
Hey, Andrew, we're watching Mudhole live right now, okay? I'm sure Mary Chrissy will get to you when we're doing when she's doing another live broadcast, but come on, Andrew, stay on task here, brother. Stay on task.
Keep it together, Andrew. Come on. All right. So now I'm going to pop this back out, just show you guys real quick. This is 180 degree axis. I flip this to the other side, and we've got our 0 axis. One last thing I like to do, and this is purely just as a reference. This is not a measurement or anything else. I like to make kind of a perpendicular mark to know that this side is my 0 degree axis. This is also the same side that should be lining up with your guides or lining up with your reel seats, whatever you need it to line up to. So if you obviously have a handle on or if you have guides on, you're already going to know what your 0 axis is. If you have a bare piece of blank like I do, it's helpful to at least mark one of those sides so you know which one is your 0 and which one is your 180. Mm-hmm. Again, purely reference marks that I did perpendicular, nothing more than that. Now, let's get into making our alignment marks. So, how I was taught to do this, and I've kind of stuck with this kind of rule of thumb, is I use about a 1.5 inch increment to do my butt wraps. So the way we do this is, so I'm going to push my slat down, and I'm going to make sure that my right edge of this left piece of tape, that edge lines up with my 0 mark, okay? Yeah. And what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to put a mark for my cross wrap intersection points at every 1.5 inches. So
1.5 what, Hunter?
Inches.
1.5 inches. Okay.
Not centimeters.
Sorry,
and not millimeters either.
I couldn't hear you.
So let's go ahead and do that. And again, with this ultra fine point Sharpie, I can come in and just make the smallest little dot. 1.5.
Which, keep in mind, we're going to be covering up. This is why we are playing with permanent marker tonight, folks. We normally do not do that, but to make the finest, most accurate marks, get you some Sharpies. They make them in black, they make them in metallic, they make them in all different kinds of colors. We are using a white blank and a black Sharpie, as you can see, but earlier I think somebody asked about you know, marking on just a standard graphite color blank, things like that. Get you a silver metallic Sharpie or something along those lines that'll give you a little bit of color, but the fine point will get it done. You cannot be, for all the years that we've used China markers and such like that, you just can't be as accurate.
Yep.
I'm not saying it doesn't work, but you will never be as accurate as using a super fine point marker.
So 1.5, 3, 4.5, and look at that, 6 inches. Funny how that works, right? So again, this is,
like you planned it.
Yeah, imagine that. So again, this is our 0 axis. I've got my, you know, perpendicular marks here just for reference, and I've got a mark at 1.5 inches. And obviously if you had, you know, if you want to do an 8-inch, a 9-inch, a 12-inch cross wrap, follow that same pattern, those same increments as far out as you can. You're not always going to land exactly on your endpoint. I set it up this way just for ease of use and for a demo. And you can vary that increment. It does not have to be 1.5. It can be 1. It can be probably even a half. Just keep in mind, the lower that number is, the closer your diamonds, or even chevrons for that matter, will be together. They will, obviously, the lower your increments, the closer those will be together. So just keep that in mind. Again, 1.5 was kind of the measurement I was taught years and years ago, and
I mean, you can
it works really well.
literally do anything, and that's, you know, Brad was asking why 1.5 on the 0 axis, and you know, I think Hunter will show here in a little bit too. You know, you're going to half that on the other side, and you know, like 1.5 and 3/4 of an inch are pretty easily found on a ruler, and that's just kind of where we're at on it, you know. And you'll find, you know, 6 inches are in between a split grip a lot of times. So we're just, that's really, Brad, that's just why we're there on that number. Nothing crazier outside of that than just, you know, we'll do 1.5 on one side and 3/4 on the other.
Yep. And I did mention it, but I'll show you guys on the flip side here in a minute.
Yep.
Obviously,
let me hit this real quick.
Yeah,
Ken,
go for it.
when you say, why don't you have to take into consideration the taper on the blank? We are setting up a cross wrap that is a basic cross wrap. And I'm sure, you know, Ken, you probably understand this. We know you've been in here a lot. We are not going to close in this cross wrap. We are not playing with a section of blank that, you know, has a ton of taper in it to where we would be closing it in and then you would have gap issues and things like that. That is going to be a totally different show. Also, Mary and Wes are in here. You know, they do a lot of that cool stuff. We're just getting people headed down the road of introducing them to a cross wrap. How do they lay it out? How do they use a butt wrap alignment tool and all that stuff? So yes, you are totally correct about needing to understand the taper of the rod blank over the course of the length of the cross wrap. But, you know, when you start closing in the cross wrap is when you really, really obviously have to take that into consideration. So I didn't want to just ignore your comment there, Ken, because yes,
great question.
You are exactly right. I just wanted to reiterate that here for everybody that is new and for those that are very advanced in this. So
cool. Obviously, make sure that this lateral line right here is lined up with your slat as you're making the marks. Just FYI there. So what we're going to do next, we have our marks for our 0 axis. I'm going to rotate this rod blank until I can get to my 180-degree axis. Same deal. I'm making sure that my lateral line here on the piece of tape matches up to the rest of my slat on both sides. And I'm going to make sure that The inside, or the right side of my piece of tape here on the left side is lined up at number 0. Now, a little bit different this time around. Instead of going into the same 1.5 inch increments, we're actually going to cut that in half. And as Chris said, we're going to go with 3/4. So essentially what you want to do is, say we want to do 1 inch increments on our 0 axis. So instead of 1.5, we did 1. As you rotate this and go to your 180-degree axis, you want to make sure you half that. So then you'd be doing 1/2 inch increments on your 180, not 3/4. So whatever measurement or increment you choose, you're going to half that as you go to your 180-degree axis. Hopefully that's as clear as it could be. So again, and make sure that my piece of tape is lined up at 0. I've got my lateral line lined up with my slat, and I'm going to come in and we're going to do a mark at 3/4 right there. And a little bit different than last time, instead of following the same path down the blank and doing 3/4, 3/4, we're going to do this a little different. We're going to take this mark and we're going to push it down. I'm going to line that up at my 0, and then I'm going to come in and repeat my 1.5 inch measurements. So we've kind of reset our starting point per se, and then we're going to come in and kind of follow the same kind of strategy we did at the 0 degree. 1.5, 3, 3.5, or 4.5, excuse me. Can't math today. And you can see obviously my next one there would be 6, but that's past my tape measurement. So there's no need to mark that. Anything from this edge right here to the right is going to be covered up. We're going to wrap over it. It's going to be, not visual, so don't worry about that. That takes care of our alignment marks. And again, you can vary those measurements and increments to your best ability. You can do 1.5 or 2 inch or whatever you want to. Just make sure when you do rotate that to your 180 that you cut that number in half, make your mark on that number, move that number to 0, or that mark to 0, I should say, and then follow the same measurement that you did at your 0. So again, I use 1.5. That's kind of my base measurement. I half that to 3/4 on the 180 side. I put that 3/4 mark at 0, and then followed my same 1.5 inch increments out to where they needed to go. So hopefully you guys followed along with that. Yeah. I know it can be a little bit confusing for your first go around, but you do this once or twice, you're going to pick it up really, really quick after that.
So I'm going to answer Terry's question here real quick. You do put your handle and reel seat on first before wrap, right? No, not really. You can, but when you do not have a... Okay, let me start over. If you do have a handle reel seat, you are going to be set into the rod blank a little bit farther, or you're going to have your burned sections of thread out here on top of your grip. So you're going to have to come off this grip with a piece of thread down to the rod blank to hit your points and go around and then come back to go around. If you don't have this, the grip is not there, the blank is a bare blank, you can start your wrap much closer, the wrap that you will see, much closer to the foregrip here, because you don't have to worry about the foregrip. And then you can put a thin coat of finish on it, you can get it all done, and then you can come in and put your grips and your reel seat and all that stuff. It just, if you don't have all the grips and everything, whether you're doing it in a split grip or out here in front of this is all out of the way. So you don't have to worry about jumping down off a foregrip and things like that. And I'll show you what it looks like. For example, on this rod, this is pretty close here. You know, I'm guessing that, I can't remember if this was a Victor Joseph or not, but this section of solid black nylon is what we call like burned. So this cross wrap, you can kind of see it's sort of like cut off a little. This is actually a chevron here. And all of the inner workings of the wrap are this direction. So technically, if this is not here, you probably even could have slid this down a little farther and eliminated some of this black thread. But it could have also been done beforehand. I don't know. I didn't do this, but it is a gorgeous cross wrap here with the tiger wrap underneath, the TWT tiger underneath your cross wrap. So that is just going to be a personal preference thing, whether you want to, you know, have a longer lead in or just not have to worry about working around different grips and things like that. You know, it's not that it's a pain or it's not that it's wrong. It's just sometimes it's easier not to have all that other stuff in the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Let's give some away.
Let's do it. I think it's great, great little segue. And speaking of butt wrap alignment tool, guess what we're going to give away?
A butt wrap alignment tool.
Let's do it. So, let's cue up that giveaway and see who the lucky winner is. First winner of the night. How many people we got in here?
442. 442.
Excellent.
Mitzi D.
Mitzi D. All right, stand by for that last name as usual.
Why do I feel like there's not many Mitzies in the crowd tonight?
I doubt it.
I don't know why.
I doubt it.
I just have a feeling. Now remember, you don't necessarily have to be present right at this moment to win. Mitzi, if you're watching the show later on or tomorrow or next week and you find out that you win, send an email in. Oh, that's too easy. Send an email in to live@mudhole.com. That's how you claim these prizes, live@mudhole.com. And what's the winner's name, Hunter?
Mitzi Davis. Mitzi Davis, congrats.
Mitzi Davis.
Hopefully you are watching. And for those that want to be a part of the giveaway, you still have time to sign up. I'm sure the guys have thrown in a link for the giveaway. If not, they definitely will.
Yeah.
There's still a chance for 2 prizes tonight that you could win. So make sure you guys get signed up for the giveaways and put in all your information there and make sure you have a chance to win the upcoming prizes.
This is a great, before we go anywhere. Hang on. This question, since I mentioned it and you're about ready. If you do an underwrap, are you marking the underwrap threads with the Sharpie? Yes, but you need to be careful because, let me see here if I have one. Okay. So this is one that I did a couple things on, and I actually did this one. It's okay. There is blue underwrap that matches the guides, and then there is a metallic cross wrap offset into a different cross wrap. Let me kind of anchor this here real quick, and then if you guys want to zoom in on it. Jeez Louise. Here we go. It's my first show tonight, everybody. All right, so you see there's a metallic cross wrap, and then you've got 2 different color threads. Please be careful. Yes, I marked on my underwrap with a Sharpie, but you have to, don't use the top of a roller stand to anchor a blank down. You have to be careful that the Sharpie that you choose, if you use like a big felt tip Sharpie, you're gonna get a bunch of bleed marks, okay? So just be very aware of what you use. Now, you can also put some color preserver down, or you can put the thinnest of the thinnest coat of finish down. And if you feel like you are an accurate person in your measurements, you can actually take and put a tiny dimple. You can use the Sharpie, or you can put a tiny dimple in that finish with the thread pick. All right, so you can use this thread pick, and if you put a really, really tiny, thin coat of thread, this is sharp enough that you can dimple the finish, and you'll never see it once you, those metallic, like the cross wraps that are inside the other cross wraps and they're just offset. So like when Hunter did 1.5 on one side and 0.75 on the other side, we just did that. We just slid it all down and did the metallic over everything. So that you can actually put a coat of finish and then dimple it. And it's not a bad idea because remember on some of these cross wraps, you're going to have high and low spots. When you go from blank to thread or from thread to then more thread to then down like this, a one coat finish over these, whatever you want to call it, a chevron, a diamond, a cross wrap, one coat of finish is going to most likely leave like real like high and low spots. So you're going to have to work through that anyway. So if you just commit in your mind to, all right, I'm going to have to do multiple coats anyway, and maybe I can take advantage of putting coats and then dimpling it as your mark and then moving on and then use that. Because even if you don't see the dimple right up and down, you know, as you roll it in the light from your shop, you can see the dimple in it and then you can just go from there. So that will give you the ability, because no, please do not run an under wrap and take a felt tipped Sharpie marker and touch that, because it will boop. And then if you don't cover it up and you won't find the center, it's a mess. So yes, thank you for asking that question, because holy moly, that can be just like, you just start cussing and snatching under wrap thread off, stuff like that. Not that anybody has ever done anything like that, right?
No.
But
no chance.
Anyway.
All right.
So I think Hunter's ready.
I think so. So let's do this. So as I said before, I'm using the G2 wrapper. I've got the belt off, so this is free spinning. We're taking advantage of these nice ball bearings in here. What I like about this is it's got a little bit of weight to it. And what I mean by weight is, if you can certainly use a hand wrapper, or you could even just use two, uprights, like the stands that come with your rod dryer. That's kind of the secondary stand. All you need is two uprights to hold your rod blank to accomplish this. But
if you didn't index your blank.
I did not. I know. Hey, man, it's
well, yeah, I think
my
you
way.
do it so that I just catch it, right?
Exactly. Again, I like taking the belt off, having a little bit of quote unquote weight to this blank that's in the chuck in our Pro Rod stand here. And what we're gonna do next is, I've also got, you wanna switch the overhead cam, Phil? Let's see what we got going on here. All right, make sure I'm lined up. These are all little pieces of tape that I knocked out earlier while Chris was getting a question answered.
Yammering.
These are just little strips that are gonna help us wrangle this thread as we make our passes back and forth. An inch or two, and just make sure you have plenty of little strips of tape that you can just kind of grab and go and use them as you need to. Trust me, you do not want to be in a situation where you just made a pass, you got to the end, and you're like, oh man, I need a piece of tape, and then you're fumbling to find the tape, and then you drop your thread, and you don't want that.
That's never happened before either.
Never, never, never. So get plenty of little strips of tape, that way again, grab and go, it's quick and easy. So what I've got here, and I'm gonna actually shift this a little bit more in center, is up on top, what you guys are seeing right now, that's our 0 axis. I know that because these are my perpendicular marks that I made. This other side is our 180 degree axis. So we are gonna start on 0. What I do is, and again, there's many, many different ways to accomplish this. Some people use double-sided tape, many different things. What I do is I take regular masking tape. I am not going to cover up, bring my pick in, I don't want to cover up my perpendicular mark. I'm going to go a little bit to the left of that, and I'm going to start a new piece of tape. And I'm actually going to do a few turns with this. Just simply kind of roll the rod blank, get it started. And I'm going to spin. I'm going to turn this tape upside down to get the sticky side. And I'm going to make a couple passes with that. And I'm actually going to kind of just go back an inch or so and make sure I've got a little bit of working room with this basically upside down tape.
Also, another reason why it's nice to not have real seats and grips and things like that. And Hunter, the question from Robert is, what's the best cross wraps to try for beginners?
The one I'm doing right now.
Robert, you found it. Man,
you got it.
Just hang on.
This is the simple and easy version.
That's it. Well, we'll sell you the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge. Just get right up to the screen and get ready, because here it comes.
Now, try not to touch this sticky side up section of tape, because that's what we're going to use to anchor this thread. We're also going to be using our shorter pieces of tape too, just kind of in tandem depending on what we need at the time. I'm going to come over to my right side piece of tape. I'm going to do the same thing. Again, I'm not going to cover up my perpendicular mark here. I'm going to go a little bit to the right of it. I'm going to make a few passes with the sticky side down, and then I'm going to flip it upside down, make a few passes on that kind of same alignment, and then I'm going to kind of work my way a little bit to the right, get some more surface area of this sticky side tape, and we're going to call it good right there.
You mean you don't need double-sided tape?
You don't need it.
No.
Is it easier? Probably. But you know what?
That's pretty easy.
I'm going to go with the way that I know is best.
I was going to say, you made it this far.
I did, somehow. I'm not sure how, but we're here. So,
Yep.
I see you got the stencil over there. Are you rubbing that in my face?
No.
All
We're
right.
just going to talk about it later.
So, we've got sticky side here, sticky side here. And again, that's kind of an anchor point that we can use to take the threads and just kind of plop them on there so that they can stay tight. And as needed, I'll use my individual pieces of thread, or tape, not thread. Jeez. Anyway, let's get into the thread portion of it. So again, I've got
Is it warm under the spotlight tonight, Hunter?
a little bit.
little
I'm not
warm?
used to that. Usually you do this this part of
we
it.
drew
So,
straws.
yeah. So CFSD 325. That's going to be our fire engine red, or whatever it's called.
America Red.
America red. CFSD 446. I don't know that color name offhand. Sorry.
America Blue.
I like where you're going with this. I wonder what the next one's going to be.
Yeah.
807. This is going to be white.
White.
I do know that one.
Yeah.
So, again, we're going to do a little patriotic theme in honor of President's Day.
And USA Hockey.
And USA Hockey. And, yeah, go America. So, what is fun about cross wraps, at least from this point forward, is we can, blue, by the way, is blueberry. That's the color name. Thanks, appreciate that. Little assist there from
Coming in from the war room.
Yeah. So, with our threads, again, I'll back up. What's really cool about this step forward, this is the fun part, in my opinion. Making your marks and getting your setup all done, your tape, that's kind of like, that's the boring part. From here forward, we're going to have a little fun. From here forward, you can make this your own. And what I mean by that is choose your own colors. If you want to use size A, use size A. Use size B if you want to, size C. It's really up to your imagination. What I'm going to do, starting with this red, because this red, since I'm starting with, it's going to be kind of our base color, I'll call it, right?
Okay.
And I'm going to be using actually 3 strands of this thread. I'm not going to be using one. And by the way, another assist from the war room there. Red is fire red.
Yeah.
I was close with the fire engine, not too far off there.
By the way, Hunter, I'm on your side here, but the peanut gallery is all over you about not putting down a piece of popsicle stick so that when you like cut the thread.
Yeah, I get it, guys. I'm sure you probably do it differently than I do, but here in a few minutes because it's going to look exactly the same at the very end.
Yeah, you know, it's just
So-
like, oh, how do you avoid cutting the blank and how do you do it? You know, it's one of those.
Yeah, hey, I get it. I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
If
So-
you need to use a popsicle stick, go for it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to use a popsicle stick, you know, but
I've never noticed that I have cut into or damaged any blank. I mean, you know, we're cutting thread, and I'm not saying that you guys are wrong. Please don't think I'm going there, because there is nothing wrong with using a popsicle stick. There's not. But you know, when you do a lot, you kind of have a feel. And remember, we're cutting thread here. We're not cutting, you know, we're not using a rotary tool or a hacksaw to cut through something that we might. It's pretty, you know, it's fairly easy to cut through. So yes, I'm not saying you're wrong. And yes, if you want to tape in a popsicle stick like this, and you want to do one of these numbers, and you come out here and you tape it down to the blank, and then you can cut on it.
Yep.
Cool.
A+. Go for it, guys.
But-
you know, and
Yes.
you know, those caveats just don't really, they don't go so far these days, but hey, it's all good.
And with Wes there, it's Hunter says, "I'm just that good." See, Wes, you're exactly right. I tried to tell Hunter that he was excellent, and then he started backpedaling.
I didn't say
and
that.
then he brought the fine print out earlier, and so here we are.
We're having fun.
That's
We're
where
having
we're
fun.
at. Yeah.
All right.
We're having
actually,
fun.
Phil, could you hit that view you had
I was
previous
gonna
there?
say, how much thread you pulled off that thing?
Well,
now?
this is an important step. I actually want to show.
I was gonna say, there's only
that one
100
over there.
yards on there, so it's.
Yeah, perfect. Got to be able to show you guys this because, again, I'm not going to be using a single piece of thread. I don't know how else to say that. I'm actually going to be taking off very long sections, and you can see I'm just taking as far as I can reach on both sides here, and then a little bit more just to be safe. And I'm going to take my razor blade. I'm going to cut.
Gosh.
Man, should I use a popsicle stick?
And
I
yes,
guess?
they are saying, like, you know, people are like, I use it to cut the tape, and not. Keep going.
Cool.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, this was actually a really. John from YouTube said, we need a hot pocket red color is what we need, the color piece
That's
sauce.
good.
John,
That's good.
that right there is somebody that watches the show.
Yes.
That's a fan right
So,
there.
Again,
John, send me an email to live@mudhole.com, pretty please, and put hot pocket in the subject. Thank you.
Again, I'm taking off very long strips of just single threads. So I've got my one end here in my fingers, I've got the spool, and I'm just taking big long strips and even a little bit more just in case. I'm gonna do that 3 times. And the reason these are long strips is because we're gonna be going down and back.
Yes.
And trust me, you do not wanna be short on your thread.
That's
then you just
exactly
gotta
right.
do it all over again. So
Yeah.
one more.
Thread's cheap,
One long strip,
promise.
little short one,
You
and
can get
then
some on sale for the President's Day sale.
Ooh.
Live now at mudhole.com.
all right. Now, don't go back to the overhead. Hold on,
Can you please
hold on.
get to moving? It's been an hour. Gwen, I'm sorry.
Patience. What is up with the chat tonight? You guys are mouthy.
People are
Settle
hot
down.
tonight. I gave everybody some extra Red Bull to make sure that they stay on you tonight.
They stayed awake tonight.
I'm telling you, I'm glad I'm over here. It's a lot cooler over
All
here.
right. So we've got 3 individual strands of our CFSD 325, and they are long. They go all the way to the ground. Now, these can be a little bit of a pain to kind of work with, so I'm gonna give you guys a few tips as we go along.
Don't worry, it's only live, Hunter.
Yeah, no big deal. All right, let's get back into it here. So, first things first is I'm gonna make sure that this thread is a little bit manageable, which means moving it around and kind of getting it to shape to where it's workable. And once it is, you'll see I've got my tag ends all kind of close together. They don't have to be perfect, no big deal. And what I'm gonna do, we've got our 0-degree axis on top. And what I am trying to accomplish here is we need to do this at an angle, obviously, because we're gonna be working around the rod blank. And what I wanna do is this point right here is in theory one of our, okay, don't move, right here, this point is technically one of our marks. This is our 0 starting point. This is, you want to basically have your thread kind of start at that angle, work around the rod blank, and hit our first alignment mark, which that's going to be our 3/4 inch mark on our 180 axis. So to do that, once you have your thread, your 3 threads or 1 thread or your braid, whatever you want to work with, once you got it ready to go, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take, make this a little easy. I'm just going to go ahead and take one of my short pieces of thread here. I'm going to kind of tack down my threads
Tape?
on my tape.
Yep.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take, because you can see right away we have this thread that kind of wants to just work wherever it lands. And what I'm going to do is kind of anchor it a little bit closer, and even on the top side of that mark, to where I can actually hit right there is where I'm trying to go with this kind of starting point. So about right there, right? Once I feel confident that I'm on a good starting point, and that my threads are laying flat, that's a big part of this, I'm going to start to rotate this blank around, and I'm going to hit that first alignment mark that's right there. And bear with me, guys, I'm not trying to cover this up as we go, but my fingers might get in the way, and I'll try my best to avoid that.
I'm sure we'll hear about that.
Oh, we'll definitely will.
No, we are having fun, and this is exactly why that we do Mud Hole Live, and we want 427 people in here, because there has been an incredible wealth of knowledge in the chat tonight. There's people that say they flare the ends of the thread to help it stick. They tie them to keep them straight. They do this, they do that. Keep them coming. Like, we love it. We're just joking and giving it back to you guys. So please, whatever you find that helps you, throw it in the chat. There's 427 people in here, and you never know. You might give somebody else an idea. We can't cover it all. I mean, like Gwen said, we've been here 4.5 hours, and we're just now laying some thread down. So we're doing the best we can. Our hot pockets are getting cold. Keep going, Hunter.
All right, so I paused there for just a second, but as I rotate this blank, the main thing to do here is just hit your alignment marks. It is that easy. Now, again, while you're doing that, try your best to lay those threads, or make sure they lay flat. That is a very important part. You don't want these things to cross, and what you'll see me kind of constantly doing is, Phil, I'm sorry, but can you back out again real quick? What I do is I'll take my pointer finger, my left hand, I'll kind of just pinch that thread down on the alignment mark. I'll take my right hand, let go of my tag ends, my long thread that's just kind of hanging out down here. I'll take these threads and I'll kind of just like fluff them back almost. Just kind of make sure they're not caught up or they're not tangled, and just kind of, you know, manipulate them to where they're just kind of loose. And what I'll do is I will kind of retake over that thread with my right hand, let go with my left hand, and then just continue on. You really want to try to make sure these threads lay as flat as possible, because if they are crossed up, that's going to be one more thing you're going to have to, you know, kind of fool with or monkey with, you know, your burnishing tool. Individual threads can be a pain to move around, especially if they're in a clump of 3.
Yep. The best part is that y'all at home cannot see it, and neither can Hunter, but the thread that's on the floor laying behind him, I keep rubbing my foot on it, and it keeps twisting it up, and he's having to stretch it.
So anyway, we made it to our right side, sticky side up tape. I'm actually going to do a couple turns here, which is just going to kind of lock in that thread. Again, since we have sticky side up and we're kind of rotating it over itself, we're locking that in.
Give us an update. There's been a couple questions on Wildcat Sue, especially, is in here, but there's been 3 or 4. What's your feel on your tension? Like, are you tighter than a guide wrap? Are you less? Are you pulling it real hard? Or are you?
I'd say it's about the same as a thread wrap, maybe even a little bit looser. Because at the end of the day,
a little less,
little bit looser. Because one thing you want to be able to do is move these threads. So like, I'll do this, and I'm not left-handed, so this is a little difficult. But you want to be able to basically push these threads, and you see how they got a little bit of give. Like I could if I wanted to, I could really, I mean, you can see there, I can move these,
We're
right?
zoomed in on it. It looks really good.
But they don't move on their own, right? Like there's enough tension to keep them in place when you're not messing with them. But if you do need to come in here and move them, you still have that ability. Like it's a touch and feel thing. It's not something I can just quantify or tell you this or
right,
that.
we can't say use 2.5 pounds, but
exactly.
You know, and Sean had a great point here. He said, you know, some people are like really wrenching on it, and some people are super loose. And thank you again, Sean, for being in here tonight, coming from the war room with all the great color commentary, and info. You got to trust yourself. I promise you, you're better at it than you think you are. Pull on it a little bit, make a pass, and then come back with your thread pick and manipulate it a little bit. If you touch it and you're like, God, I feel like I can push it all over the place. Okay, then maybe just after that one pass, you can quickly back it off and add a little more tension. It's one of those things that I promise you, even as a beginner, if you've wrapped guide wrap and you've done the most basic, you're better than you think you are when it comes to tension. And you'll feel your way through it, I promise.
Yeah. And you'll notice the entire time I have not let go of this thread. I probably could at this point because, you know, we're not too far in, and I am confident that this right here, I've done a few turns around there, it's probably locked in. You could also come in, especially if you're further along in the process, and just simply put a piece of tape down.
Yeah, if you got to walk away and get a cold drink,
put
a piece of tape down.
That's perfectly fine. That's what these little pieces of tape are for. They're kind of your backup, just your just in case tape. So anyway, I'm actually going to come back and make sure that I am on our 0 degree axis. I started on our 0 degree, and as I go back, you know, and complete this pass, I'm going to start there as well. So I hit that mark, and again, you can see I'm kind of constantly readjusting these 3 strands. With almost each alignment mark, they feel like they're kind of crossing each other, and I'm just kind of, each time I hit one of those marks, I'm making sure that they're side by side, and if they're not, I simply come in, I'll pin down that thread with my, now we've switched hands, now I'm using my right hand pointer finger, pushing the thread down, and as you can see, my tag ends are now loose. I can kind of flip those off to the side, let them readjust, and then continue on. And anything that I feel like might be crossed up, or if I feel like they're getting crossed up, I'm just going to kind of simply pin down that thread, let them go loose, and do that. So now that we are done with that pass, I'm going to make a few turns here.
Brandon's asking, what's your favorite wrap hunter?
A guide wrap.
Yeah, I was going to throw you under the bus and say that, but I had a feeling you were going to say it anyway. So a regular guide wrap with black nylon thread, 862.
Double wrapped.
That's it. In all seriousness, though, if I have to do this, I am like a fade chevron kind of person.
Yeah.
And I'll show you one that I have on a rod later. Trust me, I'm not going to, take 2 hours to do it.
I don't know if you guys can quite see, but I can already tell we've got a few threads that are a little bit off. I see a few gaps. Don't really worry too much about that right now. If you want to, after each pass, which is kind of your down and your back, just look real quick. If you see anything that's super glaring, go ahead and kind of move it around. This is also a really good time to kind of come in and make sure that your intersection points are lined up as best as they could. As you continue to do down and back, and the more thread or braid or whatever you're using, it's really important to get this first pass aligned as best as you can, because everything else from here on out is going to follow in line. It's going to follow suit with the structure that you created. So you want to make sure this first pass has the best alignment possible. Now, I can tell you, being honest, mine's a little bit off here and there. Hopefully you can't notice at home. I'm sure I'm getting roasted in the chat even more, but
no, you'd be surprised.
They simmer down a little bit.
The best part is it's all in good fun, and that's why we like it. Keep it
all
coming.
Right. So now we've done our 3 strands of red, And I took a few turns around our anchor point. I put a piece of tape down. That's good to go. That red should not, I said should not because it's happened before, but it should not move.
Jonathan asked, did I miss the reason you're using 3 threads? Is it just for a thicker design?
Yes, exactly. I want this
thicker
red
design, but like, so you don't have to go down and back 3 times. You can use 3 threads to go down and back once.
Yeah.
And rather than just doing 1 thread at a time. Because, you know, if you're incorporating a bunch of different colors, you might have to only bring in 1 thread and go down and back with 1 thread. But since we want a little bit, you know, I don't know. I mean, yes, a thicker design or whatever you want to call it, but we're just saving time, which I know kind of sounds funny that we're an hour and 16 minutes into this thing and we're like, no, we're doing it to save time. But yes, we do it to save time because if you want it to show, then yeah,
I don't know why that's so funny.
Use 3 at a time. Look, I have done this plenty of times, and we could have been here till 11 o'clock. So we're in here, Hunter. We're in.
All right. So next up is we're going to do the blue. This time around, I'm going to do 2 instead of 3. Just kind of like that question was asked. I want the red to be kind of my base color. I want it to be the most apparent color of this cross wrap. That's why I use the 3 strands. Now we're going to kind of go a little bit less width. I'm going to use 2 strands.
Okay.
And guess what? For white, I'm going to use 1. So 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
And again, you can vary those. You could do 5 strands of red and then 3 strands of blue and 1 strand of white. There
or
is
metallic or whatever. It doesn't.
Whatever. There's no
no
correlation.
law here.
Exactly.
No law.
Nope. There's no correlation to the number of threads or like. It's up to you completely. So, again, I got my 2 strands of blue, very very long, all the way to the ground. I'm gonna do the same exact process that I did last time. So I'm gonna get to my 0-degree axis. I'm gonna come in here. Anchor that blue down a little bit. I'm actually going to go ahead and just do a full turn.
Gwen said we opened a bottle of red wine now. So.
Oh wow! Just made a night of it.
Bottle of red. Don't
Love
forget that bottle of white either. You know.
So I've taken about a turn and a half with my blue.
No, nobody's a Billy Joel fan in here. Sorry, everybody in here is 21 years old besides Hunter and I. They don't know what I'm talking about. They're like, oh, is he a new rapper?
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on my 0 again, and I'm going to go to the top side this time. And what I've done, I actually need to come in here with a little bit of piece of tape to make sure that my starting angle, if you want to call it, is on point here. All right, so I'm going to lay down my blue. We're going top side first. And this is the same process. Now, this time, we're not really hitting our marks because our red thread is what we hit our alignment marks with. Our blue now just kind of follows in line to the top side of red. And your main thing here is just making sure you don't cross over the blue into the red or leave any major gaps. And as you go, again, what I like to do is pinch that thread to the rod blank, take your tag in side, just kind of let that go freely, let it loosen up a little bit. Don't step on it. And you will have thread that's much easier to manage. It'll lay flatter. Just kind of keep repeating that process a few times during your pass. We get to our anchor point, do a couple turns. And again, I'm looking for my 0 axis, which is going to be right here. And again, I'm going to use a piece of tape because that angle is a little tough. There we go. Let's get top side.
Man, I'm telling you, Gwen really started something in here. We've got somebody's drinking blueberry wine on ice. Somebody's got Tennessee honey Jack Daniels.
Ooh.
All right, I like it.
Got
to stay hydrated.
Yeah. All right, got a little bit of a gap there. I need to watch my hands, trying to keep them out of frame.
Mm-hmm. Better than me. You usually end up, it's like, Chris, get your head out of the camera.
All right, I'm gonna kind of go a little bit quicker here, so this doesn't take 5 hours.
This is great. Jay Campbell from, whoop, hang on.
Oh, see, that's what happens when you let go.
Jay Campbell said, hey guys, what is this? I was sharpening knives before YouTube tossed me into here. Welcome, Jay.
Well, welcome.
Yeah, you have entered into a rabbit hole, sir. Yeah, it's building fishing rods, I promise.
Yep.
It's cooler than sharpening knives.
Decorative cross wraps for custom fishing rods. Okay, so what I've done is on our first pass with the red, we went down, we came back, and we stopped, and we cut that off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of box in the red. So our first pass down and back with blue was on the top side. This time around, I'm going to go on the bottom side. So again, we're just boxing in the red.
Yeah.
And I'm still using the same threads. I've got tons of extra thread down here that Chris has stepped all over. Don't do that at home.
I got you.
So anyway, again, I'm gonna actually use a little piece of tape here as kind of a cheater to get my my angle correct.
This is a great tip too, Michael, coming out of YouTube. If you're doing a single pass of thread, it's easier, in his opinion, to put the spool in a fly tying bobbin. Michael, you're absolutely exactly right. We use a fly tying bobbin in our rod building all the time. We use it when we are doing fade wraps. We do it when we're sometimes even just wrapping a long under wrap. You've seen, well, I don't know if you've seen it, but if you've been in the show before, but I'll just hold this one single spool of thread. I don't even put it in a, in anything, and just hold it and just and run it down. So yeah, if you're doing a single thread, it's not a bad idea to control it with a fly tying bobbin.
And you can see that, if I don't actually talk as I'm trying to explain all this stuff, this can move really quick. I'm not super worried about trying to get this thread like butted up to the red, the blue thread butted up to the red. Because what I can do after this pass, after I actually finish this last little part here, is I'm going to come in with my burnishing tool and clean this up before we put our white down. That
yeah, you're just showing what gaps in threads look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So our blue is now done. I'm going to throw a piece of tape down.
Nice.
Make sure that is nice and anchored. Last thing you want at this point is something to come unraveled. So make sure that's locked down really good. I'm going to cut these blues off. Need to find a sharper razor blade. All right.
A what?
A sharper razor blade.
Uh-huh.
A new one. So you can kind of see. Can we get a super zoom? Oh yeah. So
lock it down.
yeah. Wow. Too close. Too close.
Yeah.
Let me get. Where's that little pick?
Thread pick?
Where'd she go?
I gave it back to you.
Did you? Well, where we went. Anyway. So you can see here we've got a little bit of our blue that's off the red. I'm just going to kind of push that up. Just come in any spot that's got a gap or needs to be, kind of moved around. Just clean up.
It is under there.
Is it?
You can probably grab it with that.
There you go. So obviously burnishing tool, super helpful. To me, it's got this pointed end right here, but this red handle pick is perfect for coming in and getting those small little threads, pushing it around, just making sure everything's nice and clean. You guys get the picture.
Jonathan had a great question. Whoops, sorry. This thing's off center again. Sorry if this is a dumb question. Jonathan, I'm going to stop you right there. No dumb questions. No dumb questions. Keep them coming. Said he's just learning. Are you twisting the threads? Or are you making sure they lay flat side by side? Jonathan, he is making sure those threads are laying side by side, shoulder to shoulder, with no twist in it. You don't want any twist. All we are doing is we're making it to where instead of going down and back and down and back and down multiple times with a single thread, Hunter is just making one pass with multiple threads. So they're all going to lay together. So don't worry. It's not a dumb question. It's a great question.
Yeah. And truthfully, you don't need to do this every single pass. If you're very meticulous and you want it to be perfect, then yeah, go for it. But
Yeah.
truth be told, and most people that, do even close wraps, they're going to be going through this so quick, they're not even worried about packing thread every pass.
Yeah. They would have had more threads laid down in an hour and 25 minutes than we would by now.
Yes, absolutely. So packing your thread or making sure that everything is nice and clean after every single pass is not a necessity, but just maybe try to do it after every other pass. Or if you're a beginner, definitely do it after every pass just for good practice.
You know what? Speaking of thread and speaking of thread tool combos, why don't we do a giveaway?
Let's do it. So what we got?
Fire that giveaway tool up there, Uncle Phil. 12 spool ProWrap metallic thread assortment kit and a thread tool combo package. Which that combo package is what? Some little snips, a burnishing tool, and a thread pick. The winner is David H. Man, I really hope that's like 13 consonants in that last name. Yeah. David Hasselhoff? Yeah. The Hoff?
Who we got?
Coming in tonight? Watching from Germany? All right. David H. Yes.
That's
close,
pretty good.
But it's still easy. It's still pretty easy.
David Hermanson. Great last name.
Yeah.
Hermanson. That's a new one.
Yep.
Good stuff. Congrats, David. Good prize there. All right. So, honestly, at this point, if you're happy with the results, which
you're ready to just go, here we go.
Let's wrap it up. No,
Have a great night,
we're not done
everybody.
just yet. You could be done right here. You could be done after the first pass if you really wanted to, but you guys can see that at least we do have kind of a diamond, kind of coming into the picture here. I'm going to come in with one single strand of white. And you're probably thinking, white on a white blank? What? That doesn't make any sense. Well, actually does. It gives it that little, it's kind of like,
Well, we're rod building.
it's kind of like metallic, right?
Yeah.
Several strands of metallic together next to a thread wrap, it looks okay, right? But even one single strand of a metallic or even an accent color can really bring all the colors together. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to shut up and just knock this out.
There you go. And that'll let me answer this question. So Lovin' House coming out of YouTube. This question kind of caught my eye and intrigued me, and I don't know the exact answer to this question, but I'll tell you what worries me. So the question is, can you lay down a thin coat of color preserver on the blank first before doing the wrap, which may help prevent threads from moving around? What worries me about this is, first off, I've never done that. But what worries me about it is I want my threads to move around a little bit because I'm going to move them around a little bit. Second, I have put thread color preserver on threads before. Let it dry, put 2 coats. Maybe it was 1 coat. I can't remember. And then I was like, I don't like it, and I pulled it off. When I did that, I got like little bits of dried color preserver. I don't know if that's because of the type of color preserver I was using or what, but what would worry me is if I then start to move that around. Color preserver is not something that is like finish. So it's not like structurally great. Like, yeah, it'll keep like a snake skin or it'll keep thread from kind of moving around because sometimes we'll put it on thread before we put finish on it. But what worries me is if like you scuff it or you chip it and now like I'm going to assume that now you're going to have like dandruff looking like white something if you scuff it or chip it or whatever. I'm just worried that it's then going to be in there. So I'm not saying that no, don't do it, but just from seeing it in another, like used in another way and then pulling the thread and like snatching the color preserver off, it worries me that if you laid some of it down and you chipped it or it flaked or something like that, then you're gonna kind of have like a mess that you don't want, and then you might have a little like piece in there. So anyway, I'm not saying that that is exactly how or what could happen, but just keep that in mind. So give it a test and try it. So who knows? How you doing over there, Hunter Man?
Done.
Yeah. You know, I do kind of like it, and I'm not saying that it doesn't, I'm not saying that the camera doesn't do it justice, but the camera doesn't do it justice in certain things. This is one of those aspects when it does sound silly that you're laying down a white thread over a white blank.
It does.
But I think it really just, it blocks it in and keeps the thread. I think it makes the edges of the colored thread pop a little bit more.
Yes.
And you know, black does the same thing. So if you do use and that's the only time I sort of suggest using a nylon in cross wraps, is using black nylon, because that is going to be the truest, darkest, richest black color rather than color fast 862 if you use nylon 862 and you want to block something in. So if you ever get down the road of a cross wrap and then you go like, man, I don't know, something's just kind of missing, do this. Throw white on the outside, single strand, or throw black nylon on the outside, and it might just nail it. Mm-hmm. And it might not be that it's the wrong color combo and all that. You might just be missing that edge border that you really need.
Yep.
So
you can see how that white, you can see it really well, kind of those middle two. That white really defines the outline of our diamond shape. And of course, you know, if you didn't have the white, it'd still accomplish it. You'd be able to see the blue diamond with the red in the middle, but
it's not as
not as apparent. And you know, metallic does this very well too. A single strand of metallic can really make a cross wrap pop. And you can keep following, you know, you could keep going with this and you know, instead of doing that one strand of white, you could have maybe thrown in a different color blue and did a little bit of a fade to it. Or again, this is just a template for you guys, mainly a template for the setup side. Using the butt wrap alignment tool, doing the measurements. From there, again, once you get to the thread portion, man, it is your ball game. It's, you know, you can use nylons or color fast or braids or metallics, any combination of those. Obviously, make sure that color preserver is in the mix if you're using a nylon. But this is how, again, I like to do a simple, very quick. I could have knocked this out in probably 15 minutes fairly easily.
You didn't have to deal with me.
Yeah, if this wasn't you know, on live, but it's super quick, super easy. It gives a little flash to your custom rod that, you know, most people look at cross wraps and diamond wraps or chevrons and they're like, oh man, that looks really hard. You know, how do you do that? It's not difficult at all. It's a few passes back and forth with thread and, you know, obviously vary up your colors to be contrasting to make sure they pop and you can see that diamond, but that's it. It's that easy.
And yes, the one question you guys are, whoa, this thing is way off. Hang on. Yes, you are correct. All three colors were size D thread. We just confirmed they are all size D. Yes, you can make a closed wrap. This thing is way off calibrated right now, and it's really, I'm really having a fit with it. Okay, we're good now. Sorry. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
Now, to complete this, which we're not gonna show in this episode because we are almost out of time. But to finish this off, obviously this isn't the end of your cross wrap. You need to make sure that you know, do some what do you call those? I don't even know. Just
Are you cooked right now?
yeah, my brain
right.
is mush. But
You want me to jump in there?
yeah,
and
yeah,
we'll
go
just show
for it.
you
Go
real
for
quick?
it.
All right, so go back on here. So what you would do to finish this out is come in right here, Phil, Uncle Phil, tight. So if you notice when you're coming on and off, the tape, right? So this is going to be one of your messier, and even it'll be crooked. You see how straight that one is to that one, right? So we're going to burn this one. It's going to go away. And depending on how far up you come this way or how far down you come this way of using it. Slide with me over here, Uncle Phil. Same thing down here. You see where this one is? This one's kind of offset. It's messy, but it's on the tape. It's supposed to be that way. So what you would do is you can either start on this side or you can come over here. And if you notice these, back me out a little bit and slide to the middle. Okay, so there you go. So now if you notice, this is the one side. These are a little more in line. This one could be pushed over a little bit, obviously. But what you can do is you can jump down about halfway between the end of the tape and this thing, and you can, that's where you would come in here with your wrap. Oh, you took the band's not on it. Mm-hmm. I knew that, but.
Bands.
All right, let's figure this one out here.
I think that was a Billy Joel song.
Yeah, I think so. So you would come in here, and this is where you're going to start your closing wrap. And then you're going to wrap back this way, right? So this is also locking all of this down. Don't have any of my tools. So if you notice, this is what's going to be, this is how it'll be, right? So ignore all this, because that is all going to get cut off. And I'm going to take a razor blade and I'm just going to gouge the blank all the way down. No, I'm kidding. But you would then take and cut your thread. And you're going to wrap back this way. Now, granted, there's a gap right here. You know, you can use that. But this is what is going to secure all the threads, because, and I'm just going to do it while I've got it here so that I can show you. Be very careful that you don't start cutting or trimming or whatever before you have secured this down. And everybody has talked about thread tension tonight. This is tight.
Tweet.
Yes, just like a tiger, if you will. So I want, because this is what's going to hold everything together, and if it doesn't, you know, you're going to be left with a big problem. Now, I'm not ending this completely because I just want to show you. I want to talk about something here really quick, and I just don't have enough hands for it. So this is going to hold this. So in a sense, if we come in here and we cut these threads out, right? Now you don't lose your wrap, okay? So you see that? And of course, you know, to try to cut all this out, right? So we have this. What you have to pay attention to, and what will help, is this is size D. So if you take this thread, I personally, just the way that it kind of laid itself out here, I would have probably left a little more here. I would have left a little more thread out here before I would have fully, you know, wrapped this. But what I want to show here is, if you take this thread, and, you know, the thread has like twist in it, right? So if you take the thread and you flare it out and you move it around, and you notice when I'm doing all this with this thread here, none of this is moving, right? This has all been nice and and locked down. So if you take this, you can like fray this all out, and you can even come in here and shave little. See how I'm kind of, again, this is size D thread. So now I'm kind of like, you can see that, right? Yeah. See, it's like linted now. So you can come in and we're just kind of doing that. And then that is going to give you a little bit better transition down to the rod blank rather than, you know, up all this D thread just like stopped here and then it just falls off and falls down to your rod blank. Same thing down here is the same way. So that's always a good way to finish it. Take it, you know, fray it out, pick it, you know, I don't know. I know some people do it. I know some people don't, but it's always a really good way to like make that transition a little bit easier. Because I know even earlier they were saying like, oh, if you take, you know, and you fray the ends of the thread and you can stick it, you know, when you're starting and doing all that,
yeah,
you know, that helps. Now, again, I stopped this thread just so that I could show you and do this. If I would have laid these wraps down, if I would have had my 4-spool thread carriage or my entire, you know, 2-spool thread carriage, if I would have been able to stop the thread and not like lose it, I would have. So keep in mind having a spool tension like the 4-spool with the tension rod. It's really nice because you can stop what you're doing. You can, you know, lay this piece down, stop what you're doing, cut all this, fray all this, and then I'm still, in a sense, my thread is still attached up going this way back to my thing, and then I can just go back. I can just go back to wrapping. It would not be recommended to stop it and then have to come back in here and try to do this again and start it, and because it's already, you can see it's ramped and it wants to slide right down it. Of course it is. That's what it's designed to do. But you don't want to have to then come in, start and stop it unless you did it like way out here and then came back and started and stopped. I just wanted to stop the thread so that you guys could see how frayed all that got, and it just makes a really much better transition. So
cool.
Yep.
Appreciate the assist there. Good stuff.
Yeah, why not? You know, I felt bad because we were throwing you to the wolves all night long.
No, it's all good.
I know it is, but
all in good fun.
So yeah, and like Hunter said, this is, you know, a cross wrap, a diamond wrap, or whatever. Rather than boxing it in, if you would have just kept working this direction, which you still can come back here and do, and then just start adding threads this way. Give me the carbon fiber grip one with the olive metallic, the green metallic blank. So in a sense, rather than boxing it in and creating a diamond or a cross wrap, this is laid out the exact same way, and this is where it started, back over here with the first cross, and then I just did 5 colors of gray or 5 or 6 colors of gray, and then I took 1 or 2 colors of metallic, and then I jumped to the next darker gray color, did the same amount, metallic, the next darker, metallic, the next darker, metallic. And then what I did is all of these are color fast. And then this under wrap is solid black 862 nylon. So you can see there's no diamond, right? I didn't box it in, but it's laid out the exact same way. And you can see, you know, almost the same measurements too, you know, kind of really close. But this was just using 4 different colors of gray, and you can see the blank. This is the MHX metallic, right? Put a decal out here. And I also, and I like doing this route. So what I did was black under wrap, 862 nylon, and then out here where I terminated it and killed it, I went back to the black nylon. So when you look up here, it all just kind of looks like it's the same, even though this black nylon is over the top of this black nylon, this is also over the top of this. So it just kind of, this is what the more like chevron looks like and not a diamond. Even though it is a cross wrap, we just keep crossing out this direction. We're not boxing things in. So, all right.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
Well,
You want to do, maybe we'll do some questions. I know we've been doing questions throughout the night.
Yeah.
We don't have a ton, but there's a couple
missed
in here.
earlier.
This one, how many coats of epoxy did you put on your wraps, Chris? That one with the black nylon, I put a coat of finish down because I did what I had mentioned earlier. Because the black was so dark, I put a coat of finish, I dimpled it, and then you just have to remember you have to cover the dimple. So you have to start like one thread thickness to the other side of the dimple as you go. And that one is pretty easy to cheat because you're not crossing and boxing things in. So you really only need to make one X. And it keeps it pretty good because you just keep sliding. So that one has multiple thin coats and it keeps it fairly smooth. I also, when I do a under wrap, I tend to use A because I feel that I can pack A tighter and it looks a little more like paint than D thread. Sometimes D thread takes a little more like force and it doesn't lay as close together. I think it's just the gauge of the thread, how thick it is. And then when I did that, I also used size A for all of it because I knew I was going to go size A and then cross wraps it with A and metallic and then finish back over it. So if I'm using D and doing all that, it just adds, not that it really adds weight, but it's going to magnify, it might magnify the color changes a little bit, but I personally would rather do one more thread, let's say one or two more threads of A, than just use D to try to get the same effect. I just think that A packs tighter, looks more like paint than thread, so I just think it's cleaner. So I don't remember exactly how many coats, but use A thread and you'll low down on the let's see, this question. You want me to go ahead and start the clock, or you just want me to hit them? I mean, there's not like tons and tons and tons of questions, but I just know how much you like the graphic. So anyway, all right, John. So on that metallic MHX rod, that's all black thread under wrap, and then he started the pattern on top. Yes, John, that is solid black 862 nylon, size A, and I just did an under wrap. Just from one end to the next, solid. Burnished it tight. I put a very thin coat of finish, and then I used that as just like my rod blank. I just dimpled it and did my chevron on top of the black. I wanted to use that green metallic, I think, so much, and I wanted to do the different gray fades because I used the carbon fiber reel seat. I used the carbon fiber grips, and like using the different grays in a chevron makes it have a little carbon fiber kind of mixture. That's just the only reason why I did it, And there's plenty of green metallic on the rod. I didn't have to. I felt like I could cover it right there and be just fine. All right, let's see. Hide it. Yes, when I do an under wrap, I epoxy it before I do the cross wraps over it. And I'm also, you've heard me say this before, I like to epoxy my under wraps even before I wrap guides over them. I like it. All right, let me go to some of these pinned comments. All right, Brian, you asked a couple times, where is your circle stencil mark to make your 90-degree axis?
There it is.
Right here.
I was waiting for it.
You've seen it on the desk all night, Brian. So for those that want to go to Office Depot or whatever and get a circle stencil, you've seen us use it before. You can get this one, professional combo circle template. Pick whatever you want. That's too. You can come down here. Give me that Sharpie, sir, please. Thank you. You can. They have the little zoom here. See the little 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So they have the little marks. So you just make your mark right on their mark. You about used all the ink out of this damn Sharpie. This also answers the question from earlier tonight about what do you do on your multiple axis when you need the 90 and the 270. That's how you get your 90 and 270. So the good news is I would not use the circle template plastic thingy, Brian, to completely replace the butt wrap alignment tool, because the butt wrap alignment tool also has, you know, your measurement on it and all of that stuff. But it is not a bad idea if you want to come in and you need 4-axis and you can put a little bit heavier mark. Always, you know, if you want to use this and do all 4 sides, and then you can come back in to your butt wrap alignment tool and use this and lay everything else out. So yeah, if you want to use this, they're not that expensive. You can get them at an Office Depot or drafting supply, whatever. So yes, Brian, I know you've been on pins and needles all night. There it is. That's it. Robert, I touched on this earlier with you. What's the best cross wraps to try for beginners? Hopefully you learned something tonight. Run wild with it. Now, Hunter did an incredible job. See, I told you were excellent. Wow. Hunter did. Don't look at me like I don't give you credit. I was trying to give you credit earlier. Hunter did a great job of teaching you how to lay it out. From there, take off.
It's yours.
Right? So you can make it shorter, make more crosses. Don't do crosses, close it in, do all that wild stuff. But Robert, that's about as good as you're going to get. Let's see. This is a great question. Dana Gorbett, what's the official microwave lunch of Mudhole? We actually don't use microwaves here. We're not allowed. We don't have the patent for them. So we use a lot of toaster ovens and regular ovens. We cook over a grill. That's pretty much it. We're not a big microwave lunch type of place. So that's why Mom cooks us nice hot meals. You know, I joke about Hot Pockets, but she makes some really, really good stuff. Let's see. We talked about Hunter's favorite wrap tonight, which is a guide wrap. And
I also like chicken Caesar wraps are pretty good too.
Chicken Caesar wraps, yeah. You know, it's got to keep the carbs down.
Of course.
So Samantha, do you have to use color preserver on all black nylon thread? No. And that right there.
That's a really good question.
I don't mean to end on that one, but I know I would love to think that you're asking it like kind of jokingly, but no, don't. You would be doing yourself the disservice of the century if you put color preserver on regular black nylon. Trust me. The reason we use regular black nylon is because it is the darkest, richest, blackest black that you can get in thread, and we love that. It hides mistakes. It gives you the best background. That's why on some of these offshore rods we use black nylon as a guide wrap, because we can take the thread and go up and back and up and back and up and back and up and back and fill it all in and then just put finish on it, and it looks like a perfect guide wrap every time. So Samantha, please don't use color preserver on all black nylon thread. Trust me, there's no reason to do it, and you would be doing yourself a disservice for that. Let's see. Yes, Brian. Chevrons are easy. They're just like a cross wrap. You just all go to one side. So, and yeah. Let's see. This is a good question, Hunter. What do you think about this? Do you ever put size A into a wrap that has D or only one size per wrap? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, unless we're talking about underwraps, I usually stick with one size. Now, again, if we're doing underwraps, like Chris said, lay your size A down first for your underwrap, then come back and you can use a size D for your guide wrap.
Yeah.
But other than that, if you're just doing a regular guide wrap or decorative wrap, stick to one size. You know, it's usually just best that way. It's consistent, so.
I'm trying to find, somebody asked to explain my dimple technique. Does that blank over there have, I'm sorry, does that blank over there, that one that's like a, does it have finish on it? I don't want to like
Oh, this one?
ruin something. Yeah, is there finish on that?
No.
No?
This
Yeah,
one,
but
this
that's
doesn't.
not, I don't think this will show. Oh, is this something Mary did? No? Oh, it looked like there was a flower in it. All right, I'll just do it to this one. I don't really care. Hold this for me. All right, it has to be like really nice and clean too. Go to the overhead camera, Uncle Phil, and come down here just a little bit because it's got to be seen. I don't know if the black's going to show it.
A little bit.
Can we do a mega zoom?
Maybe I have to go off that track. Go to the wood background.
That's it.
Yeah, you can kind of
See the
it.
dimple? Right there? See how in the light you can just see the dimple? Uncle Phil, can you see that on camera? You can see it? Okay, so all I did was just tap this finish. And this finish has been cured since, I mean, this rod is 5 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. So that's the dimple technique. I just dimple it with this thing. So you can see this like, it's so glaring. And I can't wait for somebody in the showroom to be like, oh, what is this dimple in this finish? But you can see that dimple in that finish it's very definitive, right? And all you got to do is just dimple it with, you know, like a needle or this little thread pick. And then if you have ever had to cut a bubble out of finish, and not that you'll ever see that dimple because it's going to be under thread, but if you've ever like cut a bubble out of thread finish and you just put thread finish over it, it just disappears. It's like when you sand finish and you're like, God, that looks terrible. How's that going to fix? Just put finish over it and it fixes it. Yep. So Jeff, that's the, or who was that? The dimple technique. Sorry. Oh, Ian. Sorry, Ian. Ian, that is the dimple technique. So you can do it, put it into finish, and then that way you don't have to worry about things running or smearing or whatever. Is that? Let's see. Gwen, Hunter is drinking water. He's got to get in the gym tomorrow morning. We gotta keep.
What? You know what blank this is?
Yes, FP 885 built spinning.
Here you go.
FP 885 in green metallic with the jigging reel seat. I don't know if that one is still around.
It is. It's
That is the 16 jigging reel seat?
Yeah, that's the comfort lock. I believe we saw that one in a couple sizes.
Yeah, FP 885 green metallic.
See.
Yep, lime green metallic. FP 885 built spinning. So 7/4, 12 to 30. Yeah. Cool. Oh, see, Mary did chime in. She said, haha, yes, that's a flower I added to a Jake build. Thank you, Mary. You would think all of the producers and directors and the peanut gallery back here would remember that, but thank you for chiming in. Tim, I don't know if this is the longest show on record, but whoa, Nelly.
Probably not.
It's awfully close. Yeah, an hour and 59 minutes and 41 seconds. So yeah, 2 hours, it's probably the longest. Okay, I'll answer this one last question. Why do you use the dimple technique? I use the dimple technique because if I am putting finish on it the last thing that I want to do, I'm putting a very thin coat of finish. I just use the dimple because if it's hard to see, I can see it. I don't need to put any other ink down or any other marks or anything like that. I don't use the dimple technique unless there is no finish. So the finish gives me the option for the dimple technique, and I'm using it only, well, no, I take that back. I don't only use it on this, but this is when I use it. Give me a mega zoom here. That is one single metallic cross. So a single metallic this way, a single metallic that way, over the top of a solid underwrap with thread, with finish. I did not want to put down a dot that I couldn't cover with one thickness of thread. So I know I can cover or almost cover a dimple with a single X, 2 threads or one single thread. I know I can cover a dimple with that. Plus, when I put finish on it, I can put a crater in there. It's going to fill it and it's going to make it disappear. So that's the dimple technique. I have no idea. Like, if somebody, I'm not taking credit for that. I don't remember if that was shown to me. So don't call me out if you're like, I've been doing that for 35 years. I haven't been doing it for 35 years, but I really like poking it, dimple, one single thread. It's got to be over finish. Because remember, you don't want to scratch the blank. So let's end it right there. Let's give away
Let's do it.
Mud Hole Rod Kit of choice. It's been over 2 hours and there's still 379 people in here. And to think, I was like, this might be a quicker show tonight.
Little did you know.
Whoa. All right, give us a really, really, really good one.
Frank L.
Frank L.
All right, Frank. Let's see what that last name is.
Man, that could be good. Come on.
See what it is.
Who's
Stand by.
asking about the rod model? Is that guy's coming from the war room? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's not that bad. It looked
I
really
was like,
bad. I thought
Yeah.
Lori Pope was all one.
Frank Laurie Pope. It's L's the middle name, I guess there.
I guess.
Frank Laurie Pope.
Or is that like a husband-wife sharing a Facebook name? Maybe?
Good call. Good call.
Is that maybe Frank and Lori? Or is it
Probably.
maybe Lori's like a cool family name and it's
Yeah.
like Frank Laurie Pope.
Who knows?
I don't know. Yep. So congratulations, Frank and or Lori Pope. Yes. Yeah, FLP all night long.
And also, our second prize was David Hermanson, and then our first prize was Mitzi Davis.
Yes.
So congrats to all the winners.
And again, live at mudhole.com. That's how you claim them. Shoot me an email. And also, if you loved the show, if you hated it, if you fell asleep during the last 2 hours and 4 minutes, that's his fault. But I thought Hunter did an excellent job.
Thank
Just
you.
like I said you were going to do.
Yeah.
All right. What are we doing next? Did we decide? Ooh.
Mystery.
Are we going to bring out the Ultimate Rod Showdown? I like it. That's cool. So this is the Ultimate Rod Showdown. This has to do with the mud hole. What are we calling it now? Because it's changed. Okay, so it is just the Mud Hole Rod Building Challenge. You guys might remember it as
International Rod Building Challenge.
yes. So because that was a 3-piece unmarked blank
Mystery.
Mystery blank.
Made by Cashin.
made by Cashin. So made here in the States. Cashin did a 3-piece for us just for this. People have been entering. They've been coming in. It's actually really cool. Like some of the stuff I'm like, I wouldn't have done that, but I love where they were going with it. So that's really cool. So we've been getting them in, and we also hear that a bunch of them are going to also be delivered over at ICRBE, which is coming up
This week? This weekend?
this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend.
Okay, so do you know who's going? Is John going? John Graves?
John's
Okay.
going. My
The new-
dad's going.
The
Bob.
new, the new social media star,
Yeah.
John Graves, is going. Uncle Bob
Yep.
is going.
I want to say we have Caleb going from the Advantage team.
Does
oh,
Anthony
man.
go?
Anthony's not going. Tyler Kelly's going to be there.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Tyler Kelly.
Yep, Tyler Kelly's
Who
going to be
else?
there. Might be missing one.
No, Phil, you're going, right?
I think that covers it.
All right, cool. That's enough. Just the fact that your dad's going
Oh, yeah.
is plenty. So, yeah, Scott, you're exactly right. Can we please get some pizza rolls? We'll get a bigger toaster oven. That's what we're going to need. We're going to need a bigger toaster oven, multiple racks, and really get those pizza rolls popping. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is 8:40 Eastern Standard Time. We hope everybody is having a good February.
8:37.
And you're staying
A little fast on that clock.
and you're
over there.
staying warm up north. I know we're supposed to get a little bit of a cold front. So, Hunter, great job.
Thank you.
Sean Cheney, thank you very much. Sean was in here all night long. Gwen said the wine is gone. Mary Christie, thank you again for joining us. You know, you're earning those medium bucks. I tell you what, she's really earning her keep, and we appreciate it. And Wes too. You know, we see you. We see you. And so we had Scott was in. Of course, I mentioned Sean, and of course, you know, Hoffma, Cool Man, Birdman. I don't remember this guy's name. Come on, I can't just give him credit. You know, yes, of course I remember his name, but you know, he's just hanging out eating wings. You know, of course, Justin's on the Zoom. Uncle Phil's on the ones and twos. My left-hand man, who is really the true star of the show and the real right-hand man tonight, Hunter McCamey. We're gonna see y'all next month. Did anybody catch a date on that? March 18th.
March 18th.
For the Big Broad Carnival Showdown. It's going to be episode 120. We're just going to get them all in, and we're going to judge them, and then we're going to break them. No, we're not going to do that. We'll see you guys in March. Thank you very much for joining, and we hope you guys learned something. So that's always a fun show.
Absolutely.
Have a great night.
Thanks for watching.